Hare Krishna. Audible?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
This presentation is dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Before we proceed and see today's pastime, which anyway we'll do that. I just wanted to share a few thoughts, a few context before we go and see and do that. And this context is very important for us to understand today's pastime. You see, we recently celebrated Radhastami, right? So, and before that, Janmashtami. Janmashtami, can you give the host to me? Janmashtami is great, but Radhastami is more sweet. Right? It is more personal, more sweet. Now, what is the uniqueness of Radharani? What is the uniqueness of Srila Prabhupada? What is the uniqueness of Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Because we've been discussing about Radhastami, pre-Radhastami, then we had a Radhika Stava, we had Bhaktivinoda Thakur's pastime, we had Srila Prabhupada's song yesterday we were seeing, Krishna Tava Punya Havibhai. What is the uniqueness of all of them? This is important to know. It is important to ask oneself, why are we joining these classes? Because most of you who join the sessions, I see your videos are always turned off. Even if it is for 1 hour, I'm not saying you will be like that, but let's say somebody who joins the sessions, and he anyway, video is turned off, so I can relax, I can lie down, I can do my work. In the background, something is going on, something I'm trying to hear. I really do not know what you want to achieve by attending the sessions. Some of you join, and some of you, after the sessions is over, ask some questions, sometimes relevant, sometimes irrelevant. But what are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to accomplish by attending these sessions is something you don't need to answer. You need to ask yourself, why are you spending this time? Because some of you don't spend, some of you spend, and some of you who spend, you spend in a way that you feel is right. Now, the reason I'm asking this is because these are questions which define us. Spiritual life is not about just coming and hearing one session, changing some outward dress, applying some tilak, or showing some kantimala, or saying that I'm attending Bhagavad Gita classes. I can quote these verses. I can have finished Bhagavad Gita, or I know what is to be done in life. What Krishna says, I'm aware of it. Maybe some people think that is important, but I would say it is not so important. Because if we see in the life of Radharani, it is not about what is she doing is so important as to how she is doing. How one is engaged in devotional service. How? So as I said, I started with that many of you may have some constraints, but whatever online courses we are doing or whatever online courses I'm part of, I've seen mostly it is forced, especially for the students in the college kind of a setting, that they should be present in front of their camera. Otherwise, we allow distractions to creep in. We allow ourselves to be passive. And you can choose to be passive. There is nobody who's saying don't do that. But that's a choice you are making. Right. So you see, the choices that we make in life decide who we are, decide what kind of persons we are. Nobody is forcing anyone to do anything for that matter. Krishna, if you see the entire Bhagavad Gita, he says, you do this, and he says, this is my opinion. Before we go, I actually want to share something which I saw today in Vedavis while doing some study, some research, which struck me. So if something is striking, then there must be something very, very powerful about it. It's a very simple thing, but a very defining thing. So Prabhupada, in one of the conversations, and this you can find it in multiple different places, but I found it in one of the conversations, in a room conversation. He talks about this very fundamental things, and these fundamental things are important to know because they govern our life principles. So what Prabhupada was saying about very subtle concept, pay attention to this. So Prabhupada says that in our life, we should have some principles. Principles are like the building blocks of our lives. So we should have some principles, and those principles, when we follow them, that defines our character. And once the character is defined, then one can have some respect for himself. Otherwise, even a person loses respect for himself. So these are very important things to keep in mind. You see, the kind of principles that we follow defines the kind of character that we will have. Now, principles are very basic, and Bhagavad Gita talks about various different principles. As I said in the beginning, not so important as to what I should do in life. It is more important as to how I should do in life. To illustrate this, Prabhupada gives one example. Probably I'll give two examples to illustrate this. Prabhupada talks about a person who wants to learn swimming, and he buys a book, How to Learn Swimming in 21 Days. And he knows, he has read, he has understood all the principles which are given, or all the techniques which are given in that book. He has memorized it, with which picture is there in which page, what technique is. But there is another person who just knows one technique, has read that, and has practiced in water, actually, one of those techniques. Now, the first person, if you ask him, if you question him, if you quiz him, he will give all proper answers. Whereas the second person may not, because he has not read everything. But what he has read, he has applied it in his life. So principles, when we define for ourselves, that kind of sets aside so many things I'll do, so many things I'll not do, because this is against my principle. And those principles form the character. The kind of principles I'm defining for myself, that will define my character. And that character, if I have certain character about my own self, I will have self-respect. Otherwise, I'll have no respect. If I have self-respect, people will respect me. There's a very interesting comment which I came across today. There is a person, he's a German scholar, Catholic by faith. I'm not able to remember his name. It's a very complicated name. I'll share it later on. He was the first director of Oxford Hindu Studies in Oxford University. And uniqueness about him is, he was in Vrindavan before Prabhupada had started for America. He had lived in Vrindavan for 2 years. He has met Prabhupada. Though after that, he becomes the director of Oxford Hindu Studies, Hindu Studies in Oxford University. And when he was questioned sometimes, how should one preach to others? How should one share some of this knowledge which is given in our Vedic scriptures with others? So he's saying, a saint is known by his character. You don't need to preach anything. Just by who you are, just by what principles you follow, people will automatically see and do that. You don't need to do that. So when we are doing this exercise, those of you who are joining, those of you who are not joining, that's a different thing. They have chosen something in their life. Those of us who are choosing to come and attend or hear, very fundamental question is what we want to get or gain out of this. What do I want to do from this? What is it that is going to help me? And I will talk about these principles in some other time, but it's a very important thing in Bhagavad Gita. What are the principles Bhagavad Gita talks about? But before we proceed, let me ask you this one simple question. What is the one thing, as per you, that is the central message of Bhagavad Gita? You don't have to think a lot, just quickly, what comes to your mind? Central message of Bhagavad Gita. Just unmute and say.
Not this body. Here this spirit soul.
Not this
Here
body.
part and parts.
Okay. Don't give very long answers, not required. Just 1 or 2 words is enough. Yeah, next.
Do karma
So,
and do not expect any result.
Do karma, do not expect any result. Okay.
total devotion to God. Total devotion.
Total devotion to God.
Goal of life.
What is it?
Surrender.
Surrender, somebody said. Okay. Say, what did you say?
Goal of life, Prabhu.
Goal of life. Okay. Somebody is saying something which I'm not able to.
For me, it is spiritual activities, bro. Spiritual test.
What is spiritual test?
It takes time to develop, Prabhu. That's what I'm listening daily, those sessions. We are in material world.
No,
and
that's all. That's all. I don't want.
Right.
It's fine. Anything else? Okay. You see, the most important aspect. Jagan Prabhu, you are trying to say something?
Krishna Prabhu. Krishna Prema.
See, one of the most important aspect of Bhagavad Gita, there are some chats. One sec. Chat is ready to see. Always think of me. Okay, how to live this life. Pretty close, actually. This is Rima Mataji. Krishna is Supreme Lord and rendered devotion service to him for liberation from this material life. So those of you who have given these answers, I'm not saying right or wrong, but if you see, one of the most important things which Krishna establishes in Bhagavad Gita, and that is why the position of Bhagavad Gita is very unique, is respecting the free will of Arjuna. Respecting the free will of Arjuna. After having spoken the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yathaichasi tatha kuru. He didn't force him. By forcing, nothing much can happen. Unless we realize ourselves what exactly this human life is all about, what Krishna is trying to tell us, and that realization or that understanding comes from the heart, from setting those principles. So when we set certain principles, we automatically say no to certain things. Prabhupada says 4 regulative principles. Now these 4 regulative principles are the bare minimum required to bring one to the platform of human being. If somebody doesn't follow that even, he's not even considered as a human being. So from an animalistic life to come to the human platform, those 4 principles are required. But even beyond that, we need to go to achieve certain things. Now, whether we need to do or not, whether I should exercise that or not, that choice always lies with me. And Krishna never interferes with that free will. Here, nobody is bound, or nobody is telling that you have to do. Sometimes people are always eager to share, oh, you do this, you put this tilak, you do this kantivala, you do this. What we need to do, there are so many people who can give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But it is not so important as the what are, but it is more important as to how we are doing that and why we are doing that. There is a book written by Simon Sinek, very famous book, where he questions where he starts with the why. Why are we here? Why are we trying to do this? Why are we trying to hear? What is the importance of this? And why will be clear if I have kept aside certain principles for me. So initially, I may not even know that, this is going to help me or not. Just by some simple little faith, I set aside these principles. No, I should do this. And those principles, when we keep following, that develops the character. The beauty of Bhagavad Gita is it respects the free will of every living entity. If somebody doesn't want to follow, that's fine, because he's making a choice. Important thing, one of the principles of Bhagavad Gita is choice. Choices that we are making. The choices that we are making, we are responsible for the action and the reactions that is going to come. Every single moment, we are making choices. And these choices are governed or are based on the principles we have set aside for ourselves. What is the most important principle which I have kept for myself? So yesterday we were talking about, sometimes some people show up for one session, they just be there for some time, they just go out and they'll come again and they'll see what is going on. They'll hear here, they'll hear elsewhere, they'll compare. Not really clear about the fundamentals, not very clear about the principles. That's why the interest level is fluctuating. That's why the why is missing and the how is missing, and they just they just keep experimenting like this. They're not steady, not stable. So very important to have the whys and the hows very clear. You see, yesterday the song that we took from Prabhupada's writing, Krishna Tava Punya Have Bhai, right? And I was telling how that punya means spiritual credit. Krishna Tava Punya Have Bhai. The word, if you are really, if the hows are clear, if you know the principle for me is to follow these instructions given in Bhagavad Gita, you would be more interested to know what exactly it is. Where else it is mentioned. Is Prabhupada just mentioning just like that? So for all these things, for all these interests to come, the principle is very important. If the principle is not clear, if I don't have the right principle set aside for me, I will not take the next step. I will not be interested. Because I'm only interested in hearing what. Okay, what some people stop their journey and journey to Janmashtami. You give a title, journey to Janmashtami is over, our life is over. No. These are principles meant for practicing for the rest of our lives. It is not like today, Thursday, some Bhagavatam story is there, let's hear. Tomorrow something else is there, I'll not hear. Or day after tomorrow, now something else is coming up. Based on what you are giving title, I'll decide. Not like that. What are your principles? What principles define you? Krishna Tava Punya Have Bhai. I was telling that. If you are little interested and you want to do a little more search, there is a very beautiful verse in Bhagavatam which says, Shrinvata Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantastho hi abhadrani vidhunoti suhrutsata. Shrinvataha Swakatha Krishna. So when we hear Swakatha Krishna, Krishna's own pastimes, activities, when we hear Shrinvataha Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha. Punya, the word Punya comes there. And go and search what is the meaning of that word Punya. Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantastho hi abhadrani vidhunoti surhutsatam. All the contaminations, the dirty things in my heart will be cleansed, will be removed. Hridayantastho hi abhadrani vidhunoti suhrutsatam. Suhrut, the Lord who's seated in our heart, biggest well-wisher or true friend in the truest sense, he himself personally cleanses all the dirty things. So there is the word Punya Shravana comes there. Right? Now, Krishna Tava Punya Have Bhai is referring to that Punya we will get by getting the mercy of Radharani. Radharani's job is, just to recommend someone that, he's a nice person, she's a nice person, interested in doing devotional service, takes a back seat. What we need to learn is how Radharani is so nicely engaged in Krishna's service. The definition of service of Krishna given by Rupa Goswami is Anyabhilasita Sunyam Jnana Karmadi Anabhritam Anukulyena Krishnanu Bhakti Ruttama. No other desire, just to engage in devotional service. Doing this, engaging in devotional service is required. It is not some intellectual exercise, it is not some entertainment, it is not some kind of relief or anything of that sort. Because our constitutional position is to render devotional service. The whole point of Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta is how we establish our relationship with the Lord. It is not about this faith, it is not about this book. Based on my faith, I am doing this. Based on my religious scripture or textbook, I have to follow these things. No. It is based on those principles that I have set aside for myself. How can I develop my relationship with the Lord? Each one of us, we have got that unique relationship. And that Lord is seated in every one of our heart as Paramatma. So if we have the right principles, that will define the right character. And with the right character, we can have a right respect for ourselves. then you don't need to explain something to someone. Based on your character itself, based on what you are carrying, you will communicate. And sometimes when we keep aside these principles, that sometimes is against the norms. And norms doesn't mean it is normal. Jesus Christ was crucified within 3 years of his preaching. Just 3 years, right? Because it was so radical. He had a follower by name James the Apostle. So this James was a Jewish by profession, and in the Jewish by birth, by religion. So in the Jewish religion, it is a very important duty of the eldest son to bury the father. And when Jesus Christ was passing by, he saw James burying his father, and he asked him, "Come join me." So James told Lord, "No, I have to bury my father. It is a very important thing for me." So Jesus Christ responded at that time, let the dead bury the dead. He just said this one thing. And James joined him. It was a very radical thing to do. Right? But then that is the principle that he had set aside for himself. So when we follow these principles, sometimes it looks like we are doing something which is very different, very difficult to explain to normal people. They question, they have certain ways of doing things. It is like going against the current, where somebody is flowing along with the stream with his hands in the bag, and he'll ask, "Hey, what are you doing? Oh, where are you going? You're following some 4 regulative principles, chanting 16 rounds. Look at me, I'm enjoying." He has a choice, but what is the definition of that enjoyment that he has? And what are the principles that we are keeping it aside for ourselves that defines everything? So today, on that note, tomorrow I will talk more about it, because it's a very important thing. So there are some cheap ways of attracting, saying that, okay, journey to Janmashtami, 25 days. We did. We told that you try to do this, try to do that. Some people did that. They will definitely get some credit for doing that, but that stops at journey to Janmashtami, because there was a finite goal of Janmashtami. But these are not limited by some goals like Janmashtami, Radhashtami, or this thing. These are more broader. And as Krishna respects everybody's free will, everybody is free to do what he feels right. But one needs to understand the repercussions of the choices that one makes. Because there is repercussion for every choice, for every action that we do. So once one understands that, based on that he takes a decision, then he'll be, there is no, he is responsible for that, because he has understood, and then after that he's doing that. So that is why it is very important to know the principles which are set aside in Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna time and again mentions in the entire Bhagavad Gita. So today what we will do is, I want to, since I asked at the beginning to keep the camera on, and I'm seeing at least one or two are keeping it on. One thing I want to ask you is, how many of you have read this Krishna book? Today is something we're trying to do from Krishna book. You can, there is a button there. You can raise your hands or show there by, what is that? Vibhu Sarma raised hand. Yeah, Vibhu has raised. So you can raise your hand by like how Vibhu has done. If you have read Bhagavad Gita. Okay, Arvind Naidu, Badrinaran Prabhu. I see 3. What about the rest? 4 participants. 11. You have not read? Okay. I see some more hands going up. Reading Prabhuji. Okay. Few chapters. Good. what I'll do today. It's a very, very wonderful book. One way of doing is I'll just take one chapter and read it. I'll say this is what it is, this is what it is mentioned in this, and be done with that. But those of you who have raised your hands that you have read Krishna book, we will do a small exercise. I want to tell you how important this is to read this Krishna book, or to, even if we have not read, no problem that, we have not read, but we need to read this. It is so wonderful, so full of nectar. What we will do is today, I'll show you a picture. Take a look at this picture. Can you see the pictures on the screen?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Now, I think there are 20 people in this group. I'll put you in some breakout rooms. Apart from me, there'll be 19. So I'll divide 6 breakout rooms. So you'll be with another 2 people. Okay. Now there are 6 pictures also in this. So there are 6 pictures in this. I'll show the pictures once more. And what I'll do is, in your group, in your smaller groups, you you discuss what this pastimes is, if the other person knows or based on, okay, even if you don't know, whatever the pictures is trying to say, you have to tell me once you come back. So basically what will happen is, now after this, you will be put into some breakout rooms, 3 of you. And I'll go through the pictures again. And then there is a very uniqueness about all these pictures. And we will try to connect this, because if we really want to understand, absorb and assimilate what is there in Krishna book, one way is just take this book and read and tell something from the book. I'm done with that. But I want to do it in a different way so that you remember it. So these are 6 pictures. I'll go one by one. So whoever is the first group, so you have to pay attention to all the pictures one more time. So what we will do is, this is picture number 1. So if you happen to be if you happen to be in the group 1, you have to remember this picture. Now, which group you will be, we don't know right now. So that is why you have to pay attention to all the, you make a note somewhere. You can just write Krishna selling, Krishna interacting with the fruit vendor. That is picture number 1. It's a relatively easy one. I think many of you would have seen this picture earlier also. So that is picture number 1, Krishna interacting with the fruit selling vendor. Picture number 2, Krishna carrying the shoes of Nanda Maharaj. I'm telling you, you can write it and we will divide. So at that time, it will be easy for you. First is Krishna selling or Krishna exchanging whatever. Krishna is interacting with the fruit selling vendor. Second is Krishna carrying this shoes of Nanda Maharaj. Third is Krishna Balaram going in a cart. And fourth is Krishna being dressed by Mother Yashoda. Fifth is Krishna Balaram playing in the forest. And sixth is Krishna killing a demon, a bird demon. I don't want to name, I'm sure you'll be knowing. If you don't know, that's fine. But I told that he's a demon. So I'll go one more time so that you get time to write it. Krishna killing this bird demon, sixth one. Fifth one, Krishna Balaram playing in the forest. Fourth one, Krishna being dressed by Mother Yashoda. Third one, Krishna Balaram going in the cart. Second one, Krishna carrying this shoes of Nanda Maharaj. And the first one, Krishna interacting with the fruit selling vendor. Did you all get that? Does anyone miss anything? Do you need more time?
Prabhuji, the second one. The third one, sorry.
Third one? Okay. One sec. Third one is Krishna Balaram going in the cart.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody knows what are the six pictures related to?
About Lord's when he was small,
When what is it? When Krishna was small?
when he was, I think it is related to when he was in small with Nand Maharaj and Yashoda, when he came to Mathura, I think.
Krishna was small and all those things are fine. What is
The
the
baby Krishna, I mean, when he was very small. Is that related to that?
no? Okay. What else? What is the common link between all these six?
6 chapters from Krishna book.
Which chapter?
6 chapters from Krishna book.
Sixth? No.
No, I mean six
Krishna,
chapters.
Six. Okay. Six different chapters. No.
Yes.
Krishna Bal Rupi Leela. Like, I mean, when he
It's
was
all Krishna Balrupi Leela. That is true, but that's a very broad thing.
Krishna's pastimes, Prabhu, right?
Should I give you a gold medal? What do I do for this answer? No, Krishna's pastime is true, because everything is Krishna's pastimes. I want more specific, how these six are related.
Prabhu, Krishna can be purchased by true love and devotion.
No, okay. The answer is very simple. It is from chapter 11. All the six pictures that you are seeing, they all are in the 11th chapter of Krishna book. The title of that is Killing the Demons, Vatsasura and Bakasura. That is the chapter that we are going to discuss today. Very interesting chapter. All these things that you are seeing on your screen are appearing in that chapter. So I've already given you a hint. Now what I'll do is I'll break you, but I don't want you to see the book. Don't see. Have that much of honesty. Whoever your partner is coming, just discuss with him whatever the pictures that you are getting based on the group that you are getting. And then we'll come back in say 5 minutes or something. Okay. We will come back in 5 minutes. So I'm going to assign you, you will be taken to a different room. Also join. Okay, you can go. Join. Why you are not there? Huh? Join again. Oh, I have few people with me. Huh? Let me come out of this. So I see. Okay, which breakout room are we in? You can hear me? Hare Krishna. I have three Matajis. Can you all hear me? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu, we can hear you.
Okay, which breakout room is this one? Do you know which breakout room is this one?
Krishna.
Okay, I have moved you to another breakout room. You should not be here. You should join the breakout room. You should go from here and join the breakout room that you are assigned to, Mataji. You have not joined Smita Srinath, Mataji? Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, Uma Mataji. You are in which room? 4, huh? I have sent you. You have to read. Only the pastime related to 4 you have to discuss. क्या है? अपना concoction start कर. Concocted आदमी. I see some of you coming back. How was the experience?
It was good, Prabhu.
Yeah, it was good, Prabhuji.
Okay. You were in 2. So all of you, Arvind Prabhu, Jagan Prabhu, and Jitendra Prabhu, all of you were in 2, breakout number 2. So
Yes.
yours
Yes.
was which?
The pastimes of
Krishna.
Damodar
Krishna
Lila.
carrying wear of Nand Maharaj.
All right.
And,
Decide amongst yourself who's going to speak for 3 minutes. Whatever you discussed, one person. Is the 5 minutes is over? Is that what it is? Or
Yes, Prabhu.
very is it over? So okay. Let us quickly bring back all people. All participants have been given 60 seconds. Let's see. I'm just waiting for everybody else to come back. Okay. So welcome back. Now quickly, I want to hear what happened in your rooms. So room 1 had Anjani Mataji, Bhargav Prabhu, and Lakshmi Narayan Prabhu. Any one of you want to go and share what happened, or you want to explain the pastime?
Yes, Prabhu. So we discussed the past time. It was briefly, I think Prabhu came to the Mataji, the one of the old lady seller who came with fruits, mango fruits. And Lord Krishna doesn't have the things to buy proper, but told that I don't have to pay you to buy fully fruits. But so this old lady doesn't expect anything and given the fruits, whatever Krishna like, so without any expectation. So Krishna gave and given some in back some of those grains, and she went back. She doesn't know. Once the old lady went back and she saw and realized that it's full of jewels. So the message here is, if you fully surrender and do with full devotion, and Lord take care of all the needs.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to number 2. That was Ankit, Arvind Prabhu, Jagan Prabhu, and Jitendra Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhuji, this is the pastimes of Nal Kuvera, who had been cursed by Narad Muni. So Krishna had
been cursed by Narad Muni. Your pastime was, Krishna carrying that shoes, right?
Yeah, and this is the pastimes of the Damodar Lila. So actually Krishna is also pleased to serve his pure devotee. So actually Nanda Maharaj is pure devotee, and like whenever he is asking that Krishna, please bring my shoes, so Krishna is bringing the shoes on his head, because he is respecting his devotee on his head, like so actually Krishna is also pleasing himself to serve his pure devotee, who is also feeling the same.
Okay.
So this is the two-way of competition, that Krishna is trying to please his pure devotee, and pure devotee is always trying to please Krishna. So this is a two-way communication.
Here, all others, not like the group only who is speaking, they have to hear. Also pay attention. Third group, Panduranga Prabhu, Shrey, and Smita Mataji. That's Smita Mataji.
So this is the Prabhuji. So this is the two way of service. Like one, Krishna is always trying to teach his devotees.
Yeah, your time is up.
Thank you.
Next, third group. No, they're not speaking.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you hear me?
I'm able to hear you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Prabhu, I think the third picture is like after many demons attack, they are shifting from Gokul to Vrindavan.
Okay. Anything else you want to describe about that picture? That is true. Okay. All right. That's fine. Let's go to the picture 4. Group 4 had Badrinath Prabhu, Chinmay, and Gyanji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. It was mostly Badrinath Prabhu who did all the interpretations. Chinmay and myself. Actually,
No problem. You want to share what Prabhu spoke?
So actually,
that is Krishna's birthday and
Chinmay, I think.
Yeah, okay, Gyan Prabhuji, you continue.
No, go ahead, Prabhu Chinmay ji.
I'll tell this.
Multiple people. Can you all go on mute, please? Whoever are not speaking.
So, go ahead.
Prabhu, so that is Krishna's birthday actually. So that's why there's a dress and there is a dress. He's getting dressed for his birthday, Krishna. And actually, his friends are calling him to play the game, complete the game. That's what they are looking like that when he's coming back.
Okay, let's go to the next picture. That was Harigopal Prabhu, Rima Mataji, Ritu Mataji, and Vibhu. The picture was this one. Yes, who wants to go for it?
Yeah, probably the most tricky picture ever, I think. Yeah, it happens every day, and so I don't. We concocted that after killing Bakasura with Asura Krishna and his friends are running around and celebrating, maybe circumambulating over them.
Okay, so you kind of guessed like that. Okay. Okay. Anything else you want to share?
Not that we thought which made sense.
All right, let's go to the sixth group and then we'll come back. Sixth group was Sanchita Mataji, Shivam, Sima Mataji. Okay. And this was the sixth picture. Anybody wants to go for it? Shivam, we don't see. Sanchita Mataji or Sima Mataji, anyone of you go? Want to share?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we could not come out with a past time. We could only see that, it's Bakasura being killed by Krishna. But then regarding the whole pastime, none of us actually remembered. We had some time back, read, but did not remember.
All right, no problem. That's fine. So the reason I did this whole exercise is, I can have some slides and show this 6 pictures, which is there in this chapter, and talk about a little bit of these things, and then I'll get going with this. Session is done, closed. We will go and start doing whatever our activities are. But very important to pay attention to all the details. There are so many small details. And today what we will do, now we're already running out of time, but I wanted this exercise to happen for you to realize, to understand how much of absorption happens when we are doing it on our own, and how much we can learn when we are paying attention in a group, when somebody is sharing, and this sharing has so much of power. So what we will do is next 25 minutes, or let's say next 15-20 minutes, it will take 15 minutes. I will play an audio track. Okay, it is the full book, and I'll present the book also in the screen. You can see the screen and hear the audio. It is very nicely recorded. I was sharing this during Janmashtami time. And the lessons, the principles, what are there in this, I will talk about it tomorrow for 15-20 minutes before we start tomorrow's session, or maybe half an hour. But it'll have a more powerful impact than just sharing just like that. So now your job is just to hear this wonderful pastime, and I'll also share the screen where we can read it. If you don't have the Krishna book in front of you, if you have, you can open it and just go along with that, or you can see in the screen, whatever works for you. I'll just stop sharing and start sharing again. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Reading from Krishna book, chapter 11, entitled Killing the Demons, Vatsasura and Bakasura. When the twin Arjuna trees fell to the ground, making a sound like the falling of thunderbolts, all the inhabitants of Gokula, including Nanda Maharaja, immediately came to the spot. They were very much astonished to see how the 2 great trees had suddenly fallen. Because they could find no reason for their falling, they were puzzled. When they saw child Krishna bound up to the wooden mortar by the ropes of Mother Yashoda, they thought that it must have been caused by some demon. Otherwise, how was it possible? At that time, they were very much perturbed because such uncommon incidents were always happening to child Krishna. While the cowherd men were thus contemplating, the small children who were playing there informed the men that trees had fallen because Krishna had pulled the wooden mortar with the ropes binding him. Krishna came in between the 2 trees, they explained, and the wooden mortar was topsy-turvied and stuck in between the trees. Krishna pulled the ropes and the tree fell down. When the trees fell down, 2 very dazzling men came out of the trees, and they said something to Krishna. Most of the cowherd men did not believe the statement of the children. They could not believe that such things were at all possible. Some of the men, however, believed them and told Nanda Maharaja, "Your child is different from all other children. He might have done it." Nanda Maharaja smiled to hear about the extraordinary abilities of his son. He came forward and untied the knot just to free his wonderful child. After being freed by Nanda Maharaj, Krishna was taken onto the lap of the elder gopis. They took him away to the courtyard of the house and began to clap, praising his wonderful activities. Krishna danced along with their clapping, just like an ordinary child. The Supreme Lord Krishna, being completely controlled by the gopis, sang and danced just like a puppet in their hands. Sometimes Mother Yashoda used to ask Krishna to bring her a wooden plank for sitting. Although the wooden plank was too heavy to be carried by a child, still somehow or the other, Krishna would bring it to his mother. Sometimes his father, while worshipping Narayana, would ask him to bring his wooden slipper, and then Krishna, with great difficulty, would put the slippers on his head and bring them to his father. When he was asked to lift some heavy article and was unable to lift it, he would simply move his arms. In this way, daily, at every moment, he was the reservoir of pleasure, all pleasures for his parents. The Lord was exhibiting such childish dealings with the inhabitants of Vrindavana because he wanted to show the great philosophers and sages searching after the absolute truth, how the absolute truth, personality of Godhead, is controlled by and subject to the desires of his pure devotees. One day, a fruit vendor came before the house of Nanda Maharaj. Upon hearing the vendor call, "If anyone wants fruits, please come and take them from me," Child Krishna immediately took some grains in his palms and went to get fruits in exchange. In those days, exchange was by barter. Therefore, Krishna might have seen his parents acquire fruits and other things by bartering grains, and so he imitated. But his palms were very small, and he was not very careful to hold the grains tight, so he was dropping them. The vendor who came to sell fruits saw this and was very much captivated by the beauty of the Lord. So she immediately accepted whatever few grains were left in his palms and filled his hands with fruits. In the meantime, the vendor saw that a whole basket of fruits had been filled with jewels. The Lord is the bestower of all benedictions. If someone gives something to the Lord, he is not a loser. He is the gainer by 1,000,000 times. One day, Lord Krishna, the liberator of the twin Arjuna trees, was playing with Balaram and other children on the banks of Yamuna. And because it was already late in the morning, Rohini, the mother of Balaram, went to call them back home. But Balaram and Krishna were so engrossed in playing with their friends that they did not wish to go back. They just engaged themselves in playing more and more. When Rohini was unable to take them back home, she went home and sent Mother Yashoda to call them again. Mother Yashoda was so affectionate towards her son that as soon as she came out to call him back home, her breast filled up with milk. She loudly cried, "My dear child, please come back home. Your time for lunch is already past." She then said, "My dear Krishna, oh my dear lotus-eyed child, please come and suck my breast. You have played enough. You must be very hungry, my dear child. You must be tired from playing for so long." She also addressed Balarama thus, "My dear Rama, the glory of your family, my dear child, please come back with your younger brother Krishna immediately. You have been engaging in playing since early morning and you must be very tired. Please come back and take your lunch at home. Your father Nandaraja is waiting for you. He has to eat, so you must come back so that he can eat." As soon as Krishna and Balaram heard that Nanda Maharaj was waiting for them and could not take his food in their absence, they started to return. The playmates complained, "Krishna is leaving us just at the point when our playing is at the summit. Next time, we shall not allow him to leave." His playmates then threatened not to allow him to play with them again. Krishna became afraid and instead of going back home, he went back again to play with the boys. At that time, Mother Yashoda scolded the children and told Krishna, "My dear Krishna, do you think you are a street boy? You have no home? Please come back to your home. I see that your body has become very dirty from playing since early morning. Now come home and take your bath. Besides, today is your birthday ceremony. Therefore, you should come home and give cows in charity to the Brahmanas. Don't you see how your playmates are decorated with ornaments by their mothers? You should also be cleansed and decorated with nice dress and ornaments. Please therefore come back, take your bath, dress yourself nicely, and then again you may go playing." In this way, Mother Yashoda called back Lord Krishna and Balaram, who were worshipable by great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. She was thinking of them as her children. When Mother Yashoda's children, Krishna and Balaram, came home, she bathed them very nicely and dressed them with ornaments. She then called for the Brahmanas, and through her children, she gave many cows in charity for the occasion of Krishna's birthday. In this way, she performed the birthday ceremony of Krishna at home. After this incident, all the elder cowherd men assembled together, and Nanda Maharaja presided. They began to consult amongst themselves how to stop the great disturbances in Mahavana on the account of the demons. In this meeting, Upananda, the brother of Nanda Maharaj, was present. He was considered to be learned and experienced, and he was a well-wisher of Krishna and Balaram. He was a leader, and he addressed the meeting as follows. My dear friends, now we should leave here for another place because we are continually finding that great demons are coming here to disturb the peaceful situation. And they are especially attempting to kill the small children. Just consider Putana and Krishna. It was simply by the grace of Lord Hari that Krishna was saved from the hands of such a great demon. Next, the whirlwind demon took Krishna away into the sky, but by the grace of Lord Hari, he was saved, and the demon fell down on a stone slab and died. Very recently, this child was playing between two trees, and the trees fell down violently. Yet, there was no injury on the child, so Lord Hari saved him again. Just imagine the calamity if this child or any other child playing with him were crushed by the falling trees. Considering all these incidents, we must conclude that this place is no longer safe. Let us leave. We have all been saved from different calamities by the grace of Lord Hari. Now, we must be cautious and leave this place and reside somewhere where we can live peacefully. I think that we should go to the forests known as Vrindavana, where just now there are newly grown plants and herbs. It is very suitable for pasturing grounds for our cows, and we and our families, the gopis with their children, can very peacefully live there. Near Vrindavana is the Govardhan hill, which is very beautiful, and there are newly grown grass and fodder for the animals. So there will be no difficulty in living there. I therefore suggest that we can start immediately for that beautiful place, as there is no need to waste any more time. Let us prepare all our carts immediately, and if you like, let us go, keeping all the cows in the front. On hearing the statement of Upananda, all the cowherd men immediately agreed. Let us immediately go there. Everyone then loaded all their household furniture and utensils onto the carts and prepared to go to Vrindavan. All children and women and old men of the village were arranged on seats, and cowherd men equipped themselves with bows and arrows to follow the carts. All the cows and bulls were placed in front along with their calves, and the men with their bows and arrows surrounded the herds and carts and began to blow on their horns and bugles. In this way, with tumultuous sound, they started for Vrindavan. And who can describe the damsels of Raja? They were all seated on the carts and were very beautifully dressed with ornaments and costly saris. They chanted the pastime of child Krishna as usual. Mother Yashoda and Mother Rohini were seated on a separate cart, and Krishna and Balaram were seated on their laps. While Mother Rohini and Yashoda were riding on the cart, they talked to Krishna and Balaram, and feeling the pleasure of such talks, they looked very, very beautiful. In this way, after reaching Vrindavana, where everyone lives eternally, very peacefully and happily, they encircled Vrindavana, drew all their carts together in a half circle, and in this way constructed a temporary residence. When Krishna and Balaram saw the beautiful appearance of Vrindavana, Govardhan Hill, and the banks of river Yamuna, they felt very happy. As they grew up, they began talking with their parents and others in childish language, and thus they gave great pleasure to all the inhabitants of Vrindavana. Soon Krishna and Balaram had grown sufficiently to be given charge of calves. Cowherd boys from the very beginning of their childhood are trained to take care of cows, and their first responsibility is to take care of little calves. So along with the other little cowherd boys, Krishna and Balaram went into the pasturing grounds and took charge of the calves, and there they played with their playmates. While taking charge of the calves, sometimes the two brothers played on their flutes, and sometimes they played on amlaka fruits and bale fruits, just as small children play with balls. Sometimes they danced and made tinkling sounds with their ankle bells. Sometimes they made themselves into bulls and cows by covering themselves with blankets. Thus, Krishna and Balaram played. The two brothers also used to imitate the sounds of bulls and cows and play at bullfighting. Sometimes they used to imitate the sounds of various animals and birds. In this way, they enjoyed their childhood pastimes apparently like ordinary mundane children. Once, when Krishna and Balaram were playing on the bank of Yamuna, a demon named Vatsasura assumed the shape of a calf and came there intending to kill the brothers. By taking the shape of a calf, the demon could mingle with the other calves. Krishna, however, specifically noticed this and he immediately alerted Balaram about the entrance of the demon. Both the brothers then silently approached him. Krishna caught hold of the demon calf by his two hind legs and tails, whipped him around very forcibly and threw him up into a tree. The demon lost his life and fell down from the top of the tree to the ground. When the demon lay dead on the ground, all the playmates of Krishna congratulated him. "Oh, well done, well done!" And the demigods in the sky showered flowers with great satisfaction. In this way, the maintainer of the complete creation, Krishna and Balaram, used to take care of the calves every day, beginning in the morning, and thus they enjoyed their childhood pastimes as cowherd boys in Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. Reading from Krishna book, chapter 11, continuation. One day, all the cowherd boys went to the bank of the river Yamuna to water their calves. When the calves drank water from the Yamuna, the boys also drank. After drinking, when they were sitting on the bank of the river, they saw a huge animal which looked something like a heron and was as big as a hill. Its top was as strong as a thunderbolt. And when they saw that unusual animal, they became afraid of it. The name of this beast was Bakasura, and he was a friend of Kamsa's. He appeared on the scene suddenly and immediately attacked Krishna with his pointed, sharp beak and quickly swallowed him up. When Krishna was thus swallowed, all the boys headed by Balaram became almost breathless, as if they had died. But when Bakasura demon was swallowing up Krishna, he felt a burning, fiery sensation in his throat. This was due to the glowing effulgence of Krishna. The demon quickly threw Krishna up and tried to kill him by pinching him in his beak. Bakasura did not know that although Krishna was playing the part of a child of Nanda Maharaja, he was still the original father of Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe. Mother Yashoda's child, who is the reservoir of pleasure for the demigods and who is the maintainer of saintly persons, got hold of the great gigantic heron by the two halves of his beak and before his cowherd boyfriends bifurcated his mouth, just as a child very easily splits a blade of grass. From the sky, the denizens of heavenly planets showered flowers like the mallika, the most fragrant of all flowers, as a token of their congratulations. Accompanying the showers of flowers was a vibration of bugles, drums, and conch shells. When the boys saw the showering of the flowers and heard the celestial sounds, they were struck with wonder. And when they saw Krishna freed from the mouth of the great demon Bakasura, all of them, including Balaram, were so pleased that it seemed as if they had regained their very source of life. As soon as they saw Krishna coming toward them, they, one after another, embraced the son of Nanda and held him to their chests. After this, they assembled all the calves under their charge and began to return home. When they arrived home, they spoke of the wonderful activities of son of Nanda. When the gopis and cowherd men all heard the story from the boys, they felt great happiness because naturally they loved Krishna. And by hearing about his glories and victorious activities, they became still more affectionate towards him. Thinking that child Krishna had been saved from the mouth of death, they looked upon his face with great love and affection. They were full of anxiety and could not turn their face from the vision of Krishna. The gopis and the men began to converse among themselves about how wonderful it was that child Krishna had been attacked in so many ways and so many times by so many demons, and yet the demons themselves had been killed and Krishna had remained uninjured. They continued to converse among themselves about how so many great demons in such fierce bodies had attacked Krishna to kill him, but by the grace of Hari had not been able to cause even a slight injury. Rather, they had died like small flies in a fire. Thus, they remembered the words of Garga Muni, who had foretold by the dint of his vast knowledge of the Vedas and astrology that this boy would be attacked by many demons. Now, they were actually seeing that this was coming true, word for word. All the cowherd men, including Nanda Maharaj, used to talk of the wonderful activities of Lord Krishna and Balaram, and they were always so much absorbed in those talks that they forgot the threefold miseries of this material existence. This is the effect of Krishna consciousness. What was enjoyed 5,000 years ago by Nanda Maharaj can still be enjoyed by Krishna conscious persons simply by talking about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna and his associates. Thus, Balaram and Krishna enjoyed their childhood pastimes, imitating Lord Ramachandra's monkey who constructed the bridge over the ocean and Hanuman who jumped over the water to Ceylon. They used to imitate such pastimes among their friends and so happily pass their childhood life. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the 11th chapter of Krishna, killing the demons Vatsasura and Bakasura.
Now, did you notice how much of details are there for each of those 6 pictures that I shared at the beginning? What we were trying to understand and speak based on whatever we could gather and what is given in Krishna book. And one more thing I probably would like to assume or ask, than rather assuming, had I just read those or had I just shared the audio, your absorption would have been probably a little lesser, or you would have not paid so much of attention as now, after having done an exercise of going through the pictures which you knew that is from the same chapter, and you attempted to speak something and then you heard yourself, right? There is much more absorption. But the most important thing of reading this chapter is to see what are the principles which are shared in this wonderful chapter, which is the main crux of reading this pastime, which I will do tomorrow. So join us, because we are running out of time, and that requires little careful discerning to see what exactly Prabhupada is sharing and how wonderful those principles are. That we will see tomorrow. So we'll meet again. Any comments, anything anybody wants to share before we close?
Hey Krishna bro, Krishna is unlimited, his pastimes are unlimited. So probably whatever anybody shared here might be true.
So what is the last thing? Sorry, the last part I missed.
So whatever anybody shared, the stories might be true because Krishna is unlimited, his pastimes are unlimited.
Okay. I mean, we can't speculate. We should not speculate like that. That is why hearing from the right source and hearing it the way it is described is very important. So, but actually, the whole beauty of this Krishna book we are missing if we if we don't pay attention. And we will see this tomorrow, and I'll share this chapter that you heard and that you did that exercise of having broken out in smaller groups. Afterwards, when you see those hidden gems which are there, your appreciation, your understanding, and as I said, it is those principles which define the character, and the character which gives the respect. Very central to this whole activity of why we are doing this. What is the point of your attending this? So only request is, try to be on time, and if you are attending, be attentive. Not attending for some reasons, that's fine. But if you're attending, please be attentive. You will gain a lot. So with that note, we will stop. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think the exercise that we did today was, the absorption was much better than what we do every day. Even after reading and then listening, I think the absorption was much better. And I do not know about others. I think at least I paid more attention and I could understand
Sure,
more
everybody would
after
have
doing.
paid attention. Right, that's true. But you will see tomorrow, there are more than just to pay attention. There are more to see in this wonderful pages which Prabhupada has written. These are just gems. And when we understand them, when we apply them in our life becomes different. Because as I said, those principles define the character. What are the principles? I'm keeping it aside for myself. That is a fundamental thing. We will talk about it more tomorrow. Can I request all of you to kindly come in front of your camera and raise your hands? And we will chant 1, Hare Krishna mantra with all people. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Ki
jai.
Jai.
Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead ki. Nitai
Jai.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. We'll see you
Hare
tomorrow. Yes, Prithvi is there. Nice and see Aviram. Nice. I'll see you all tomorrow. Hare Krishna.